Surah Adz-Dzariyat. Surah Adz-Dzariyat consists of 60 verses, including the Makkiyah surahs revealed after Surah Al Ahqaf. It is called Adz-Dzariyat, meaning the wind that blows, taken from the words Adz-Dzariyat, which are found in the first verse of this chapter. Allah swears by the wind, mega, ark and angels who are sources of prosperity and bringers of prosperity. This indicates Allah's inayat to his servants. The main contents of Surah Adz-Dzariyat. Confirmation of the Day of Resurrection. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 1 to 14. These verses swear by various natural phenomena such as winds, clouds, ships and angels who divide affairs, and state that God's promises are definitely true, and retribution is certain to occur. An oath was also pronounced upon the heavens which have solid paths, confirming that humanity is truly in a state of discord, and those who turn away from the Quran and the Messenger have been shunned. People who lie a lot and are immersed in ignorance and neglect the affairs of the afterlife will be cursed and punished on the day of judgment, where they will be punished in hellfire according to the request of those who want the punishment to be hastened. Rewards for the God-fearing. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 15 to 23. These verses describe the condition of pious people in heaven, where they enjoy gardens and springs, taking God's grace freely because of the good deeds they do in the world. They sleep little at night, beg for forgiveness at the end of the night, and have rights for the poor in their property. Signs of God's greatness are visible in the earth and sky, as well as in humans themselves, as a reminder for people who believe in God's promises which will definitely come true. The good news the angel brought to Prophet Abraham. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 24 to 30. These verses tell the story of Ibrahim's glorified guests, where Ibrahim welcomed them well, even though they were strangers. When Ibrahim served them food, they did not eat, and told Ibrahim that they brought good news about the birth of a very knowledgeable child, namely Prophet Ishaq. Ibrahim's old and barren wife was shocked by the news, but the guests confirmed that it was the will of Allah, the all-wise and all-knowing. The destruction of Prophet Lut's clan. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 31 to 37. These verses tell the story of when Abraham asked the messengers who were sent to the sinful people, namely the people of Lut, to torture them with clay stones marked by God as punishment for people who go beyond the limits. The messengers saved the believers who were in the land of Lut's people, only found a house of Muslims, namely the Prophet Lut and his family, and left a sign of Allah's greatness as a warning for people who were afraid of a painful punishment. The story of the people who denied the prophets. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 38 to 46. These verses tell about the signs of Allah's power that he left behind several disobedient people. Allah left his signs on Moses when he sent him to Pharaoh with obvious miracles, but Pharaoh and his army considered him a magician or a madman. Pharaoh and his army were punished and drowned in the sea. Allah also left his signs on the people of Ad by sending a destructive wind, and on the Thamud people with a warning to have fun until the appointed time, but they behaved arrogantly and were destroyed by lightning. Before that, Noah's people were also destroyed because of their wickedness. Proof of the power and greatness of Allah. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 47 to 51. These verses state the greatness of Allah in creating the heavens and the earth, and everything he created in pairs, so that humans remember his greatness. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to warn his people to return to obedience to Allah and not to associate him with other gods. This message was conveyed clearly as a warning to humanity. The attitude of the ancient people towards the apostles. It is mentioned in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 52 to 55. Every time a messenger came to people before, they were always called witches or crazy people. These people do not advise each other about these accusations, but they are people who go beyond the limits. In this context, it is advisable to turn away from them without reproach, while continuing to give warnings because such warnings are beneficial for the believers. The purpose of creation of jinns and humans to worship Allah. It is stated in Surah Adz-Dzariyat verses 56 to 60. Allah created jinn and humans to worship him, not to provide him with sustenance, Allah is the giver of sustenance, who has very strong strength and power. The wrongdoers will receive a portion of the punishment commensurate with their actions, and they must not ask for the punishment to be hastened. Those who disbelieve will be wretched on the day of judgment that has been promised to them. Conclusion of Surah Adz-Dzariyat. Surah Adz-Dzariyat confirms the existence of a day of resurrection, and the rewards received by believers and unbelievers in the afterlife. This chapter also conveys the stories of several prophets and their people as comforters for the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, so that he would not be sad in the face of the stubbornness and rejection of his people. In the context of faith, this chapter describes the condition of believers in heaven as a reward for their obedience, and emphasizes that humans and jinn were created by Allah to worship Him, with Allah as the provider of sustenance and hell as the reward for disbelievers. The laws outlined include the prohibition on associating partners of Allah with other than Him, the command to turn away from stubborn polytheists, as well as the obligation to give warnings and teachings to believers, where one's wealth also has rights for the poor. The stories told include the interactions of Prophet Ibrahim, Alaihi Salam, with angels, Prophet Musa, Alaihi Salam, with Pharaoh, as well as the people of Ad and Thamud, and Prophet Nuh, Alaihi Salam, with his people. In addition, this chapter notes that everything was created by Allah in pairs, and that there are signs of Allah's greatness in humans themselves.